last night, getting prepared, and then up at 6:30. And I added some more Google Cloud stuff. So just a little bit of lay of the land. I want you all to work on this photo blog, cookie memcache. No, not that one. This one right here. So that'll be a weekend homework assignment to get this running. Photo blog with cookies, memcache, data store, URL, and Google Cloud Storage. So basically, you'll be able to run the photo blog at App Engine, put it out to domain, and anybody could upload photos. So that'll be your challenge for the weekend. Due on Monday. How do you like that? Good. Make me work. I appreciate it. And then I fooled around with Google Cloud Storage a little bit more. So we left off with getting media links. And no, we got media links. We were going to look at attributes, right?
Sorry to interrupt, but
yeah.
What again was the homework assignment we were supposed to do?
I'll put it up on the spreadsheet when I'm all done chatting. But basically, you're going to take this code here, which is not finished out. Here's the challenge, right? So this is the code that doesn't have it added yet. And the instructions are start with the files in this directory, store the user's photos on Google Cloud Storage, display the user's photos. So basically, you're just taking Photoblog and adding in file storage on Google Cloud. All right. And this solution still has a big to-do next to it, so it's not done. So don't look in there thinking you're going to get help, unless it no longer says to-do, and in which case, your homework's finished for you. Yeah. So now back to Google Cloud Storage. We left off with media links. So I put together a little bit about listing files and then looking at the object attributes and then doing a query, listing files with a query, and then access control lists, so setting permissions on the files. And then there's an example from Google Cloud Storage, which I just threw in there, and it runs so that you could run it and you could just sort of pick through that and look at like all the different things that are possible with Google Cloud Storage. So all those examples are up there and working. This is going to be a work in progress, JavaScript. I'll work on that this weekend. But I'd like to just put together some files which introduce you to JavaScript. And so I want to show you a little bit of JavaScript today, but I don't have like a really clean repo like here is your learning path for the fundamentals of JavaScript. Code Academy I could recommend. You know, you can blaze through that in 3 or 4 hours, and they have a nice introduction to JavaScript that I've been through. So anyhow, here are some of the files that I put together when I was going through the JavaScript on Code Academy. Like I said, I want to clean this all up and just make it one nice, progressive, linear JavaScript deal. And then here are some files from our Summer Web Bootcamp, 15 days of JavaScript, right? And in addition, if you want to just look at a little bit more JavaScript, you could do my GitHub goes to 11. And I don't have Whack a President out there anymore. That's in my projects. Never mind. I'll put that under here, Whack a President somewhere. You can look at that. So that'd be like your JS, and then I want you to sort of just expose yourself to JS a little bit because we're going to talk a little bit about Ajax. And so asynchronous JavaScript and XML, except it's no longer XML, it's JSON, and so AJ might be a little bit more appropriate. AJ. But I'm trying to keep everything lowercase in this repo. There we go. And then we have a to-do list, which I presume implements some Ajax. I haven't looked at it in a while. And then we have our Twitter application. And so previously when I taught this course, we went through the Twitter much earlier and before Google Cloud Storage and everything. So a lot of the stuff in here will be review, but it'll be good review to sort of look at that. But that's like the next couple of steps in our learning pathway. Anybody have any questions? Cool. How many people are enjoying it? You actually are kind of like, well, I'm digging the web. Just on a personal note, it's like, I think I like this kind of programming. It's sort of fun, building applications. Yeah, I think you can make a whole career out of it, right? I mean, you have to make a choice, what direction you're going to go. There's all kinds of different areas you could focus upon in computer science. You guys obviously have the benefit of a wider array of choices. you know, but it's pretty cool. Glad to see those who like it. How many people don't like it? It's like, wow, this is really not my thing. Not your thing? No? Cool. How many people just aren't raising your hand? Don't raise your hand. All right. Yeah, that's what I thought. So one thing came up. Somebody was trying to do Larry. Who's Larry? Yeah, Larry. Okay, cool. You were trying to do the Google Cloud Storage, and you weren't able to get it to work, and then
even on the website, like you got the free folder download file, that wasn't even coming out. Actually, I just deleted the buckets and redid the buckets. But then there were still some things that I had to install for my application to work.
Yeah. Yeah, so I added that here to the notes. I'm not sure, and I just wanted to sort of put that out as a discussion to see if other people had this, because it's been so long since I've done some of this stuff. Let me bring that up here. This right here, you might need to install Google Cloud Storage SDK. I installed this a long time ago. One of my students recently needed to install it. I'm not sure if it's needed or not. So is there anybody else who hit this, and anybody have thoughts on it?
I have installed it using Ubuntu.
You installed it?
Yeah.
And so that was needed for your system?
You run it and you authenticate it with your email account.
What it does is it authenticates your system with the all the various Google things, so that you can use Google without having to go through the more fancier PEM and all that stuff.
Oh, great. So this is you need to install Google Cloud SDK. Might.
As a bright side too, if you run it that way, every App Engine project also includes a Git repo. And this Google Cloud SDK will also set up everything Git-wise to authenticate your Git with the Google with your private Git repo for your project. If you're using Git for storing stuff, if you don't want to use GitHub for your project, this thing will authenticate you with your private Git repo for your App Engine project.
So basically, if you have this, you don't have to do all the PIM stuff and the keys and everything. You just need that.
Which is a big headache. So it's worth it.
And I don't think that installing it is all that challenging, like different instructions here, but enter the following command prompt, restart your shell, and gcloud init.
Or flip to the Windows instructions.
Windows? To hell with Windows users. You're on your own. That's your own dumb fault. Just kidding. Download an installer, launch the installer. Linux, similar. Question?
Yeah, when you under download these packages, you have a go get -u golang.org app engine, and then you have ...
Yeah. That's a syntax that Go recognizes, and so this is a Go command, and so we're going to be running, Go code. Go's going to be running this. And this just means get app engine and recursively all children directories.
So, yeah, that's a Go specific thing. When you use go get, it downloads the entire repo, and then it runs go install on whatever you had typed in specifically, which for packages basically just does a partial compilation, so you get faster compile times later. So with the ... it'll run the go install on each sub package as well. So the app engine /storage, app engine /data store, and all that. So you get your faster compilation times when you're using the sub packages as well.
Alright.
I recently was using a package that was mostly C code, and it takes good 3 minutes to compile normally. So if it wasn't running go install on all those sub packages, I basically lost the Go's great advantage of fast build times. So, but when I run it like that, it goes to go install on all the sub packages, and then now my build times are fast, near instant typical Go times.
Because it builds out all your packages and puts them into the .a files, the archives, and sticks that into your PKG folder of your workspace.
Yep.
And those archive files are already compiled binary from the packages that just get pulled in. They don't have to be recompiled.
And yeah, from there it basically just has to hook up the function names to the appropriate locations in the .a files.
That's cool. I like the little hand gesture. That was a nice visual of how that happens. This is what the compiler's doing. Connecting them all together. That's cool. All right, so that will help. That was just a little bit of an update. Okay. So I guess I'll just sort of like point out some highlights here. We saw the media link, and then we have list files, and so we'll run this. Documents. So console cloud, Google Cloud Console. And I'm going into my learning repo and then go into storage. So I hit my settings icon up here and went into storage, and here's my bucket. And there's no objects in there. I could hit refresh, nothing's in there. And I don't have any cookies here, and I'm going to choose a file. And documents, go workspace, source, GitHub, goes to 11. Golang web, 05, there we go. Now I have a cookie, now it's listing that file. Have we seen this? You feel like you saw that already? Yeah, I feel like you saw it already, right?
So last time I think it was using the data store to figure out what files there were.
All right.
So this one's probably actually querying the console. Or querying
so
storage itself.
See what it's doing. Upload a file. If it's post, then get the file and upload a file, and then put the cookie, and then list files gives me back attributes. And so list files takes in the context, storage, new client. We've seen that. If you have a client, you could get a bucket. If you have a bucket, and here I'm passing in list. All right, so if we look at the documentation on that, godoc.org. Did I just say org?
Yeah.
That's what happens. Like, you feel like you're totally like, dude, I could totally get by on 4.5 hours sleep. You know what I'm saying? Let's go over to the godoc.org website. And people are like, no, you're not functioning. So my new client gives me a pointer to a client. I get my bucket. Is that too small, or does that help? Can you guys see that? That's better, right? Better. Client, get my bucket, right? Because I have a pointer to a client. I could get my bucket. Gives me a pointer to a bucket handle. Now I could do an object. That's what we've been doing. And then I get my object handle. And with my object handle, I could do different things like new writer, get a pointer to a writer or reader, or whatever, all this other stuff, right? But now what we're doing is, instead of getting object handle like we did last time, we're now going to get a list, and list takes a context and a query, and it returns a pointer to an object list and an error. And so a pointer to an object list, what does that give me? Object list is a type, and object list has results, which is a pointer to object attributes, and then next, which gives me like more results. You know, if I limited the results, I could get like the next 10, the next 10, the next 10. And then something about prefixes, which I haven't figured out, but which Daniel totally understands. So maybe he could do an example, or JJ over the weekend, and add that into the repo for prefixes. You probably already have one. I think you did one. I think we have one where we did the directory.
Possibly.
I don't know. We'll look at it. Or anybody else who feels so motivated. I would like to see something with prefixes and next. I didn't get that far to build that. So, but basically what you get is this results, a slice of object attributes. And when you have a slice of object attributes, you have the bucket, the name, and then the ACLs, right? And all this other information, which we were kind of looking at before. And so I'm doing a list here. And the list gives me back a pointer to an object list, right? And an object list, once again, is this stuff. And then with the object attributes, it has like attributes of each object, right? And so the list is giving me back the object list pointer. So I'm just calling it pointer. And I'm saying pointer results, because the results on that are just going to be a slice of object attributes, okay? And each object attribute is going to be about one object. And these are the attributes associated with each object. And so when I look at that running, I get back my slice of attributes, XS. That's a slice of strings. I'm going to do X attributes. So there's my slice of attributes. And range over that. And then, each time I range over it, I'll get all of my attributes associated with one object. And so I could say, well, for that object, give me the name and print out the name. So that's how I'm printing the name that time. So just kind of like more than anything, what this is kind of like, reinforcing, working with documentation and reading the code. And then we have 06.
To fake your folders, one of the possible queries that you can use for that second argument for list would be prefix of. So you can make sure that whatever it is has got this prefix so that you would look into this folder.
Prefix of. Oh, right, yeah. So it'd be like if it was like users/McLeod, it'll only give me the folders with that.
It'll only give you files that start with
Maybe
that.
we could.
So you could fake folders that way.
Maybe we could pound that out just for fun, right here in class. That'd be cool. All right, so here's let's see what we could do. Here's go app serve on 6. I just changed the code, so we'll see if I broke it. And refresh, and let's get rid of all those buckets and just start new. Bye-bye. All those objects, sorry. And get rid of that cookie. And now we're ready here. And, what did I do wrong?
Build error.
Why? So I have to look at main.go 15 undefined retriever. So retriever 15. I've taken that out because I was cleaning up the code, but obviously I didn't check it after I cleaned it up. Why? Cool. And I know that that's all the same file, but whatever. There's in different places. All right, so now we have like all this information. We got the name of the file. We have the bucket. We didn't see this. We have the content type, content language, cache control, access control list, all users, reader, and then user dash this, right? That's the owner, and that's the permission. This is what do they call it? It's the whatever. We'll see that in a second.
It's basically a UUID.
Yeah, but I was looking for this phrase right here. Now that I'm on it, it's ACL README GitHub. We'll come back to this in a second. It's you have your object, you have your bucket, it's your scope. So it's your scope and permission. So you have permissions and scopes, right? And so this right here is the scope. That's the permission. That's the scope. That's the permission. So the scope could be like a single user with some Google ID, right? Which is, I guess, me. And or it could be like all users, that's the scope, and here's the permission. Scope and permission, access control.
I think that particular user would be the App Engine
Oh yeah, App Engine. Some other interesting stuff in there, MD5, CRC, whatever.
Yeah, the media link down below.
Media link.
So the scope of the ACL is all users, and permissions is for the what's for the reader.
Yeah, that was saying that all users are allowed to read from this particular file, so that means they can look at it. So we are having a content type text plain. I don't know why it's downloading all the time instead of.
I don't either, and then it changes, and I don't know what I did to get it to change. That trips me out.
So basically, that particular permissions list is saying everyone's allowed to look at this file. This guy's and then the App Engine project is the owner of the file and could do whatever they want with it.
All right, so let's just listen out attributes. And when we go and we look in the documentation, all right, like so, list files, right? Storage new client takes in context, gives us a client. When we have a client, we can get a bucket, say this is our bucket. That's a constant. It's assigned to the name of my App Engine project, right? So my bucket's 11-30.appspot.com. I misspoke. It's not my App Engine project. It's the bucket name, which is prefixed with my App Engine ID. And then I say here, once I have a bucket, I could call list, because getting a bucket gives me back a bucket handle. And in the documentation, if you have a bucket handle, you have this method. And list takes in a context and a query. I'm passing in nil for the query. If you look at that, here's list, context, and a query. A query is just a struct, so struct can be nil. So I'm passing that in. And then I get my pointer, and I'm passing back. And the pointer from list is the object list. We just did this, didn't we? And here are the object attributes, right? So I'm getting the pointer results. Pointer results, pass that back. And then when I get my results back, are you having deja vu? I don't know why I'm going through this again. What's different about it? Nothing. All right, we're done with that one. There's something I want. Oh, I wanted to say ACL stuff. I want to show you ACL stuff. That's what I wanted to do.
Yeah, where you're writing to it, you're setting the ACL manually for the all users reader.
So you can see how I'm kind of like code clicking through here. But here's your ACL, right? Where it's some entity, that's your scope, and then some permission, that's your role. And then you have some entities here, right? These are type entities, all users, all authenticated users. Those are constants defined in the standard library. And then you also have some roles here, right? Owner or reader. And then there's some helpful notes here. Entity refers to a user or a group. They are sometimes referred to as grantees or a scope. It could be in the form of user-user ID or user-email or group-group ID or group-email or domain-domain or project team-project ID. We'll see a little bit more about that in a second. So those are the access control list things. And then also when we look at results, we get these object attributes, right? So the object attributes are all right here. That's what we're printing out. They're all described for each file.
I believe in your upload, you are manually editing the ACL.
Yeah, right here, storage. I am adding that.
Right there.
So ACL is equal ACL rule, and the scope is all users, and all users have the ability to read it. So maybe read is different than download? Is that what you're thinking?
No. Read just basically means you're able to view the
That's what I
file
thought,
or whatever, whether it's reading or downloading or whatever. So normally it would just say 401 forbidden.
So the next thing was like, well, let's instead of passing into list just nil for a query, let's pass in a query. And so a query is a struct that takes a delimiter, a prefix, versions, cursor, max results, right? A lot of this stuff is optional, not optional. It's not saying it's optional, so I'm guessing I got to include it. Optional, and then not optional, right?
Well,
And
the versions would default to false.
yeah, versions would default to false.
So technically
Perfect.
optional.
Technically optional. And max results would default to 0, and that would be empty strings, empty strings, empty strings. So just take it out. And we could put this on one line to make it look different. But that might be confusing. I think that's the way we've always done it, and that's just a little bit more consistent. So now I'm saying just give me 2 results. And so when I run 07, or when you run 07, you'll just get 2 results. And let me make sure I took out of main on 07 my golden. Yeah, it's gone. Just probably run it, just make sure it's running for you. Oh, I had something in there. Bam. I've got power. Bam, 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 bam. Yeah, so it's totally running. But now I've only gotten, well, here is 1 result, because that's all I've uploaded. File that one, MD, and then it's just got a whole bunch of information, right? And then upload another file. Oh, that's the same one. Upload another file. And my query is saying give me 2. And so I should see 2. There's the second one, the MD, and the text. And I'm going to choose another file. Now I have 3 files, and I can see that over here. 3 files. But here I've got my text file, my JPEG file, no MD, just giving me 2.
That would be what next would do. So you're saying max results of 2, and then next has got a query that you can put into a list that will give you third item on.
Yeah,
third and fourth
JJ.
item.
Oh, I was going to say, awesome, dude. You got a question? Let's hear it. Awesome, dude. You got a question? Let's hear it.
So, what exactly is the query version of this doing?
It's just limiting it to 2 results, which is good if you've got like some storage thing that you've got like 1,000 users on. You don't want to be showing the results from 1,000 users. Then you have 10 items each, and then you got 10,000 results, and that's just kind of too much. Your website would be loading for too long. So by limiting it down to a shorter amount, like 10 or 30 or whatever, and then you have multiple pages, page 1, 2, 3, 4 of results, and that way you can get back your results quickly, and which is what your goal is as a websiter, is you want to have everything presented to the user cleanly, but also very quickly, because if you're not fast, they'll go somewhere else.
So similar to having only a limited number of forum posts per page.
Yeah.
Speed on the web is money, and money is popcorn. So, right? We all want more popcorn. Sorry. Try and keep it fun. Sometimes my jokes are corny. So we get a new client. With a pointer to client, we go get a bucket, which gives us a bucket handle. With the bucket handle, we could come over here and get a list of, basically the objects. So we get an object list, but that takes in a query. And so if we see what a query is, we come over here to query, pass a query in, and a query is, we've seen it already, but delimiter, prefix, versions, cursor, max results. So basically we're just like, let's do a really basic query where we're just like saying, give me max results. But some of this other stuff in here, maybe we'll try doing this all together, is allows you to define a certain files for a certain user, but you have to store it a certain way. So in the file name, you'll store users McLeod or whatever, or some user ID or something. And then we have some stuff about ACL, access control list. So just like from a basic level before we even like start looking at the documentation or anything, access control, right? It's just file permissions, meaning who and how much, right? Which is basically scope, who, how wide's the scope? One person, a couple of people, the whole world, and how much. How much permission are you giving them? Read, write. You know, and so that's, and for, if you're setting that for a file, you're not allowed to write a file, rewrite a file. You have to just overwrite it, you know, and so that's really a bucket level permission to write a file to the bucket, and then it'll overwrite the file if it's already there. And so you could, do you guys want me to read through this to you, or just sort of ballpark it? You read through it on your own, the fine details. If you're watching the video, you could just pause the video, read that. And so permissions for an object, you could set, remember we have scope and permissions, you could set reader, writer, owner, default. So writer you can't set, sorry, that's a misspeak. You can't set that on an object, right? You can't like have a Word file up there and then add a few more lines to it, you know, or a video file, and let's, you know, prepend to this video file a 5-second introduction. So here's the binary for the 5-second introduction, we'll prepend that. No, you have to do that processing some other way, and then just overwrite that file. Put the new file with the same name in its place. So, so reader, you could read it. Owner gives us reader access, also lets us read and write object metadata. And default, objects have the predefined project private ACL applied when they are uploaded. Objects are always owned by the original requester who uploaded the object. And you have bucket permission, same one, read, write, owner, default, reader, writer, owner, default. So permissions on a bucket, you could read the bucket, you could write to the bucket or overwrite to the bucket or delete in the bucket if you have writer. Owner gives you reader and writer, and by default on a bucket, project private, applied when they're created. Buckets are always owned by the project. And you can see what this project private ACL access control is. Project private, blah, 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 blah.
So basically, in the App Engine console, you can list other people's Google addresses, and it'll give them access to the project as well as team members. So by default, that bucket private is two team members on the project. So that way, you give them access to the project, they also have access to the bucket for the project.
Which one?
That default.
Oh, default.
Project private.
Project private. Okay. Yeah, so if you give them access to the project, then they also have access. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Yeah. And then the different scopes. We all have a Google ID. You could use that. You could use a Google email address. You could use a Google group email address for the scope. Like, hey, here's our group, you know, and the group all. And so here's Google group stuff. You could use Google Apps domain, so don't be confused with Google App Engine, or like Google Apps is like
how our school gets mailed up from the state.edu.
Yeah.
It's using Google stuff and Gmail and all that. And its domain, Google Apps domain, is mailed up from the state.edu.
So you could do that. And special identifier for all Google account holders. Right? This special scope identifier represents anyone who is authenticated with the Google account. The special scope identifier for all Google account holders is. And then special identifier for all users. Special scope identifier represents anyone who is on the internet with or without a Google account. So basically, you can lock it down if they belong to Google, and you'll use some sort of Google identifier to do that, or it's for everybody. And so there's a little bit of vendor lock-in there. So vendor lock-in is, wow, if we adopt that solution, all of our users have to be Google users, you know, and we're using Google stuff. And so the way that you might think about restricting access to files then, if you don't want to do it with ACLs, would just be like, you know, some sort of programming logic where you're naming your files users, user ID, and if somebody's requesting a file, you're just going to query and pull out the files with their user ID, you know, and I don't know if there's any other way they'd be able to hack and see other files on there, because if you're naming them all random names, how would they figure it out?
You can use their permissions, which they've got their various levels of permissions, but it's pretty heavily vendor locked to Google stuff. Or you can just basically say only the App Engine's allowed to really access this stuff, and have your App Engine app do whatever permission filtering that you wish based on your own account system.
That's a good way to say it. I like the way you said that.
So if you're using your own user accounts, you'd have your own user account lists, and your users may not have a Google account, but they've got an account with your system, so you can apply your own permissions. But that also means that the files have to go through your system and not through a media link. So you have to pay for the time on the server, bandwidth, and all that.
I'm sorry, but you had said earlier that a apps domain would be similar to how for our school email we have to use mail.fresnostate.edu.
Yeah, but they're Google accounts. But it's not a gmail.com account. It's something else. That's just another service that Google provides. You can give them an account URL, a domain, and they will provide as if this is a Google account, another Google thing.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So
It
I think
it makes
Google
it
Alias.
clears it up a little bit better
Yeah.
since
Google uses it for their own stuff
whenever
too.
for some reason I have to re-log into one of my email accounts, it just shows me both of them, both
Yeah.
my Gmail and the school one.
Yeah, they're both Google accounts. It's just the one is using that Google Apps domain thing. Google uses it internally for their own system too. If you ever email a Google employee, they all have @google.com instead of @gmail.com. They're just using their own system for that.
What do you think would happen if we emailed Larry Page at google.com?
Probably get his secretary, or hit one of his filters on his email box.
So if we set permissions like right here, right, it's all users, role reader, all users, role reader. That's how it prints out when we look at the ACL. And then we could do it just default without setting anything. So here I'm not setting any permissions. I've commented that out. Hey, that doesn't need to be in there. Just double checking. Commented it out. Make sure I got rid of this other deal over here. Cool. So that is 0803. Just kind of setting everything back to 0. Maybe I don't need to do that, but nice to start at nothing. And so here you can see project owner, there's the scope, and there's the permission. Project editors, project viewers, user dash this, owner. And so what is that 107526, blah, 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 blah? Just remember 107382, the first and the last three. And if I go look here and go to like my home, 107382, that's my project ID unique number for my project on App Engine. 107 blah 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 382, and that's just exactly who got permission, this project, right? 107 382. So what Daniel is saying is if I give Daniel access to this project, then he would also have access, you know, since he has access to the project, he would have access to doing things on Google Cloud because everybody involved with that project has access to these permissions. It's a little bit dry. And, but I thought, you know, worthy to cover. And then I tried to do this, and this wasn't working for me. I couldn't verify it. I thought it'd be a really cool example. But I said, user Todd McLeod, and T. Scott McLeod, it's one of my email addresses, and storage role reader. Right? And so I thought, well, if I set that, then everything else by default is private. The project, I think, will always have access, and since I'm associated with that project, I'll have access. Now this person will have access, So I could go and log in as that and have access, but somebody logged in as something else would not have access. That was my thinking. Is that correct? So when I look at my ACLs here, I need to have an entity and a role to struct. And so here's a storage, slice of storage, ACL rules. And then inside, here's one of my rules, right? So it's a struct. And it has a scope, a user, and then a permission. So it has the ACL entity, basically, the scope, and then the permission, the role. And if I look at ACL entity, it's a string. And so here are a couple of constants that are in there that could be used. But when I look at these notes, it says, hey, user-email. And in that documentation I showed you, the README said you could use a Gmail account. So I did user- in my code, I did user-tscottmcleod. At first I thought, well, that's just a string, so I need to do some conversion. And I did like, this is a ACL entity is a string, but those are two different types. So I thought I needed to do storage.acl entity. I thought I'll probably have to do that, turn it into from a string to an entity, but it doesn't like that. I don't know why. That's pretty good thinking. You have any thoughts on that? I thought that was pretty astute to think of that.
You're not going from a variable that's a string to an ACL entity. You're just kind of creating the ACL entity right there, and it knows how to create itself off of a string.
I thought that that's what this wanted. It needs an entity which is of that type. And I'm
Yes.
not giving it that type. I'm
You're-
giving it a string.
You're giving it a string literal,
But
which
then that
that's
works.
how it knows how to use.
It does the conversion
Yeah.
for you, basically.
If you were giving it a string variable, you would have to convert it manually.
Oh.
But if it's just a literal, it basically says,
Because
okay, I'm
it's
creating
typeless.
a new one.
It's typeless,
Yeah.
right? Isn't that right?
Yeah,
It's
literals
the-
are typeless, so.
Whoa, that's cool. All right, that makes sense. And so anyhow, and then I gave it the role of reader, I think. What did I do? Storage role reader. And role reader is right there. So this doesn't work unless something changed. And I could access it from my Gmail account, and I could access it from tscottmcleod, and I could also access it from nobody, where I'm not logged in with anything, just from incognito. So I'm not quite sure what I needed to set for it to become private. But if anybody can figure that one out,
Your computer is authenticated with the Google Cloud thing. Your entire computer, and you're running it localhost.
so that's it. So maybe if I email the link access to somebody, we could see if you can access it. You want to try that? And then we'll be able to sort of verify it. I think that'd be kind of fun.
Deploy it or something, and we can look.
04. Yeah, I could just go app deploy, right? And apparently need to update. Is that what that just told me?
Yeah, it says your local Go app
3,000
Out.
versions out of date.
out of date. Yeah.
Release 1.934.
So you may not actually have the Go 1.6 with that version. But in any case, we should be able to go to learning-1130.appspot.com now.
Yeah, go do it. Learning-1130.appspot.com. What kind of fees am I going to incur for like 3,000 files being uploaded? So already there's one JPEG there. I can view it. Can you guys? Let me see if I click this link, media link. It tells me I have to log in. Let me delete this. Somebody uploading a file. Cool, delete that one. Okay, I'm going to upload a new file because I think when I have it in my cookie, I have another way of bringing it in. And I have to clear my cookie. Oh, I don't have any cookies there. Sweet. upload.
Your if you set login required in your app.yaml, then you would be logged in on your learning app spot with
there
your
we
Google
go.
account. Right now, we're all logged in as no one, so none of us have permission.
What I do right here, just
Login :space required.
cool.
I believe that's it. I guess deploy again. Compilation, 128 files left.
Who knew? By the way, this beef jerky from Costco is really great. I've started swimming again. And there's a real joy, like, from working out hard and then just, like, having that appetite from having exercised hard. Makes me feel alive. Some people uploaded files.
Yeah, if you refresh the page then, so it can say that, so it can confirm your login.
So do you want us to try uploading some files?
Sure.
We've got a few, but yeah.
Yeah, there's a couple of them there. I'm only seeing 2.
Because you still have that query limiting it to 2, probably.
Yeah. Still saying login required.
Did you log in?
I didn't, but it gave me some new cookie.
So it probably logged you in with your Todd McLeod at Gmail, because that's your default Gmail.
Oh, not T Scott.
Yeah.
So if I go to T Scott, so only 1130-appspot.com.
Learning
Learning.
1130.
I don't need sleep.
Not appspot.com.
I could function completely fine on 4.5 hours.
So, yeah, so you did
Wow.
sign in with another. Nope.
I said allow, right?
Yes, so that was your Gmail, wasn't it?
Yeah, this is my.
Which you wanted your T Scott.
Yeah, that was my T Scott.
Was that? It looked like it was your.
Maybe I got it wrong.
Yeah, clear the cookie and refresh the page. Yeah, you have to log out of Google on this browser now.
T Scott McLeod.
T Scott. Huh. Okay, then I'm not sure what your error is then.
Anyhow. Who wants to pursue that and see if we can figure that out, or just let it go and work on it on your own? That's kind of how I feel too, man. I want to figure it out too. It's like, why isn't that doing it? Because I did just log in. So let me upload the files as T Scott and see if the files I uploaded. But everybody who uploaded the permission should have been T Scott, because that's what I hard coded in.
And if you look at the file, the permissions list, it actually says that too.
Yeah, it says right here, there's my permission, so I should be able to get that. And then my media link, and then the name. You know, I had another thing here when I upload them. Let me try this, because I did it a different way. And so I'll go clear out everything here, refresh, delete, and then here, and submit, and then refresh, and then that. All right, so I was able to access the file that time, right? I'm able to access it from T. Scott McLeod. Doesn't look very pretty.
Content type's wrong or something.
Yeah, but then when I go over to here, right, even if I took that URL, copy link, address, and just drop it in here, I can still access it. So So maybe it's just like something on my machine or gave me some permission up here. No, that's just the object. Anyhow, something to play with. Yeah. JJ, question? No, just moving your hand. And then the last example is Google Cloud Storage. And that's just the one from Google. So you can look through that on your own. So I think it'd be really cool to see an example with Next. And then also to see one where this one was working with the ACL. I'd like to see those two working. So if anybody can figure that out, I will give you X credit. Any 4 homework assignments, I'll give you 100%. So the 2 extra credit challenges. One of them is to find a way to get this working where, hey, I'm setting permissions for one user and I could show only that user can access it. I haven't got that working. I'd like to see that. And then the other one is to use Next. Right? So show me 10 records, show me 10 records, show me 10 records. And there is
Next in what?
So, you know, show me a few records, show me the next couple of records, show me the next couple of records. And I'll drop this in here because this will help you. And you can take a look at that one. So there's a program we did at boot camp, but it's a little bit more involved. I think I'll change the order of these. Makes more sense to have that be 10. And this won't be 9. How many people feel like, okay, I've got the basics of storing files and I maybe don't necessarily understand all the nuances of setting permissions, but hey, I could upload files, I could pull files down. How many people feel that? How many people need to do a little work to make it happen until you get it? Okay. So that's just the main takeaway is just the put and get. That's a pretty big deal. And you've got this one, and next we'll talk about JavaScript and Ajax. Bum, 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 bum.